And Liz says, hi, my ladies. Hi,
Ah,
Liz.
hey, Elizabeth.
She's in Chicago where there is a lot of snow.
Oh,
A
I'm
lot of
sorry,
snow.
Elizabeth. I'm in Arizona and I don't even feel bad.
It's no snow.
No snow. It's like 56 degrees. So it's going to be 76 later this afternoon. I plan to be outdoors in my flip flops.
It's a great time to be in Arizona right now.
Oh my gosh, it's my favorite time of the year. Anyway, sorry.
You're
Side
fine.
note.
I know. So what else is there for us to discuss?
Oh my goodness, really? There's lots of stuff going on. It's
Yeah.
like, what do you want to talk about next?
Well, I think one of the things that's interesting that's kind of in alignment with like this idea of also like wanting to understand more is like so the Nobel Peace Prize. There is like Donald Trump was nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize, and so was Black Lives Matter, which I know in a lot of ways it seems like two very different ways of being. I don't know, like just they're polarized kind of causes, or cause doesn't feel right either.
No,
but
I don't think cause feels right either. I'm glad you caught that.
Yeah, I don't know what to.
I'm not sure I'm feeling what he's saying right there.
They're two very polarized things, and yet they're kind of nominated for the same award. Now they're nominated for different like reasons. Like Trump's not nominated because of his response to what Black Lives Matters is doing. He was nominated because of some like a peace agreement with the Taliban or something. I feel like I should know more than that, but I know it was a completely different kind of situation. I think it's interesting that there is the perspective in which both things could be happening at the same time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's interesting. So that's a whole random topic for me.
Is it?
It kind of is. I don't know, and maybe I'm just making this too simple or too whatever, but the Nobel Peace Prize. I know it's a grander thing. I know it's been around for years, but really?
Right.
I mean, we should all just be desired to live peaceful lives, peaceful with one another. I'm just not sure that this is the kind of, it's like giving a child an allowance for chores that they should automatically be doing.
Right.
And that's just my opinion. So don't everyone beat me up.
No, I feel you. Yeah, you shouldn't get an award for doing the right thing.
Yeah, that's just kind of how I feel about it. You shouldn't get an award for doing the right thing. Now, as far as who they pick, well, anyone who needs a prize to do the right thing, I don't know. And I got challenges with both of those choices, but those are just my challenges, for lots of various reasons. So I don't know. So I have to be honest. I don't know enough about. I just don't know enough about it because that's just really not something that, like I said, that I feel is warranted. So
yeah, no, and I get, like, I'm not necessarily like, let's talk about the Peace Prize, but I think it's interesting that somebody would perceive Black Lives Matter as seeking peace, and as well as Donald Trump, and so I think that's more of kind of like what I was talking about, rather than the idea of like somebody should be getting an award or not, but just kind of like two different ways of reaching for peace.
I think that there's a good example of perspective, and I think, and this is just my opinion, I think there's an example of people with an agenda looking for some sort of an attention.
Yeah.
I mean, both of those folks are very controversial to be in a peace situation. I don't know. I don't know if the same people pick those people. I don't know if two different people pick those people. I have no idea. But I don't know. I don't even know if I'm qualified to even have an opinion about it.
Right. Well, and it is really like two different things, because you have like one person, and then you have like a movement, which is, it's like, it's a variety of people, and everybody is kind of participating in that differently. So I think we were talking about it a little bit too, how there might be like, you might be part of a bigger group, but there still might be actions that a smaller group of people are taking that you might not feel like is the way that it should be done or is the best way for things to be done,
Right.
even if you maybe understand why it's happening.
Right. Right. So you're looking at extremes. And so the extremes
That's
are
all we
never,
look at.
yeah, that's all we get an opportunity to see. Yeah. So we're looking at all these extremes and wondering why we can't find a place to fit. And
Yeah.
here's what's unfortunate is when we have those extremes, it requires a reaction from people. You're either not mortified or you're mortified.
Yep.
And this is, again, I'm a grandma, so I've got to be honest. I feel like people try the shock factor to get attention. And I feel like there's a shock factor in all of this.
Mm.
You know, and anyone who's in an extreme side, it's about shocking the world to get their attention, to get them to look at us. But the challenge with that is that although you may have everyone's attention, you may have overdone the shock, and now nobody's listening to what you're actually saying.
Yeah. That's
And
the
then
balance.
that's the hard part. So I feel like maybe there was an agenda, a really good agenda that needed to move forward, that got lost in the extremism, and then it's, forgive me, but the media only picks up on the extreme, and sometimes it loses the heart. And so I have a really hard time right now believing the media with anything, and that's sad. That's sad. I should trust. I should trust, but I don't. I don't. There's very few mediums I'm even willing to look at, and then I have to process it based on my identity and to see what I want to participate in, and not what I want to believe and what I don't want to believe.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the things that's helpful about all of this is I do think that I think it's good that, yeah, I mean, I don't think that we should be giving like so much like energy and power into some things, but I think just hushing them or throwing them aside and not like addressing it's not addressing the issue, you know? So I think if things are coming up, I think we need to find ways to work through those things rather than I don't know, like trying to like
It's always, you're right. We should always get together and have conversations, but it's hard to have a conversation in the middle of screaming.
Yeah.
And so if not everyone's willing to come to the table and have a conversation, nothing's going to get done. And yeah.
Do you find
go ahead.
Do you find yourself more curious? So like when I see people responding in a way that I wouldn't choose to, I just become curious as to where that comes from. Kind of like, because especially if somebody has very strong feelings or such a strong response to something, it's like, what's going on there? What more is there for that person than there is for me that I can maybe try to come to know or understand, or just acknowledge that, you know, I don't think those things just happen, like they're created. And a lot of the times that stuff is kind of a symptom of a bigger thing that for us to kind of look at as a society, as a group of people, to be like, you know, like this is happening within our community. So something's not well. So
well, I like to take those things off in littler chunks. No, I mean, think about it. I definitely have a voice, and I definitely use my voice, but I'm not the person shouting at the rooftops all these anguish. I'm the person who is wanting to have a conversation, who does my homework, who will cast a vote or a non-vote. And I am the willing to ask the hard questions. But here's my thing. I don't have access to the Donald Trumps and the Joe Bidens of the world. Okay. I have access to my local leaders. I have access to my county, my state, my community. And so I exercise that very, very regularly, very openly, with opportunity for conversation there.
Right.
And so I feel like if I can move in that regard, then the rest of this stuff I just have to trust will take its natural course. And here's the thing:
Yeah.
if people agree with me, great. If they don't, that's fine too.
Yeah.
That's what democracy is.
Yeah.
You know, we get to share our voice. I'm not a yelling match person. If someone was to come to me and yelling at me, I'd certainly let them have their peace and be still and have a conversation with them. But I'm not going to engage in a screaming match in a large group of people to get my way. That's just not how you get things done.
Hmm.
So I don't know. I don't know if I even probably went off course even there, but
No, well,
I think that's small bites for me. I
right.
don't want a whole program or a whole organization.
Yeah. I feel like sometimes it comes into the battle of solution, like what the solution is. Maybe not always that there is a problem or not, but just kind of like what's the solution.
Yeah.
I don't know, is where I think we can sometimes differ. I think where people can differ, I guess. I don't know.
When you say solution, you mean like something tangible?
Like how to address something, you know, like some people might have
Throw an idea out. It's fine.
so I don't think so. Like some people might say, okay, so in order to affect, say Donald, say affect the presidency, then I need to really focus on local government. But then if local government is still only like two parties, then
Mm-hmm.
I think that's part. I think part of it is not only like part of it is the system, like the structures in which are just going to continue to get us the same results until we change some of that stuff. And so I think part of that is figuring out what do we change in order to get results that we ultimately want.
I think we have to get a vote in Congress for that, don't we? And what I need to do is put Congress people in there that are willing to have a conversation and vote. So the network, in my opinion, needs to be across people like ourselves who are engaging with our local, so that we can gather the local and get them up at the White House to make a difference. I have to be honest, and people can be mad at me. I'm so sick of the yelling and screaming in the White House. Nothing's gotten done. Nothing will continue to get done. If we continue to move forward with the way it's moving forward, you're just going to have people digging their heels in. And nothing's going to get done. And the rest of us out here who want to live in a beautiful country, who wants to grow and be accepting and loving and kind to our neighbors and the people around us with no hindrances, are being raked over the coals, for lack of a better word. And I personally don't appreciate it.
Collateral damage. We're just
That said, let's just go right into what about all this censorship happening?
Yeah.
Most people are not fans of Mr. Trump, but I don't want people to be able to censor him. You know what that starts? Is censorship for people across the board. I don't like what you're saying, so you don't get to have your voice.
Yeah. I think it's a dangerous precedent to set, because who's deciding what is appropriate and what's not, you know. And I think, you know, and there's obviously like who's making that decision, for one. And then also, like, for me, I personally think that I would much rather, like, people are going to find a way they're going to find a way around it. It's like you can create a whole new you can create these barriers to access to something, but people will figure out a way around it, you know. And so it's like, you might as well, to me, I feel like it's better that it's just all there in the open, you know, and helping people to learn not to give it the power that it doesn't deserve.
That's right.
Because I don't feel like, again, it's kind of like we're talking about, like, the solution aspect. The solution isn't to censor you, is to, like, you know, kick you out. Like, and we talked about this actually and this is just a very smaller level, but I think that a lot of the times this stuff can, like, bleed out. But we talked about, you know, we're like, oh shit, or we're going to be talking about politics and these sorts of things, and we're going to start getting these opinions and these comments from people who are not us, who might not be approaching things in the same way that we're attempting to. And so like, how do we deal with that? And I know like my initial thought was like, well, if they're like being crazy, or, and I don't want to say crazy is not a good word, if they're being like hostile, if they're being hostile or, you know, in some way, to just like remove them. And that was like my first thought. And then you were like, well, and which is weird because that's contrary to everything that I just said. But I definitely had that inclination to like, I don't want to give any of that any power. So to not give it any power is to remove it. And I don't think that that's the way to not give it power. I think it's like you actually suggested that, no, I think we thank them for their comment, or we, you know, we move forward in a way of like appreciation rather than trying to snub them out for whatever reason.
You know, we need to hear everybody.
I agree.
I want to be heard. Now, that's not to say we all have to agree on everything. We don't. But that's what being a grown-up is.
Mm-hmm.
We can have a conversation. We can have difference of opinions, even different lifestyles. And we can still move forward and have a relationship. You know, I want to be friends with people. I want to, I don't know, I love people, period. There's no pre-criteria. I just love people. Now, I don't agree with all the people. And I have to say, I love some people a little, well, I shouldn't say love. I like people a little more than others. So,
right.
But at the end of the day, I love and respect people. They're created.
Yeah.
You know, because I have a foundation of Christianity and my identity is Christian, my desire is to honor all people. They're all created with a purpose. They're all not here by accident. And it's not an accident. The you know, where we're at, the location God put us, the color of our skin, the size of who we are, you know, that's not all the families that we have. That's all intentional. And if we can't be adults and learn to bloom in that intentional space that we're put in by God, then I feel like we're missing a whole lot, a whole lot. You know, the Bible talks about far more than we could think or imagine. Where does that come from? If we can only be caught in this little tiny space and can't get past the little things. And I know you think, no, these are big things. They are big little things.
Right.
Then if we can't get past that, then what are we missing? What is that? Far more than we can think or imagine, because those little thoughts and those little spaces come from the things that we can imagine. Yeah. So we need to think past those things, and we need to allow God to work out all those details. I just being honest here, and I hope you don't mind, but one of the things I was struggling with is I don't want people to have a negative thought about me. And I thought, and then the next thought was like, well, what is that with your concern? And I'm like, what? Why are you concerned about that? That's none of your business. I created you. I created you for a purpose. I knew where you were going to be. I've created this opportunity. So why are you worried about your reputation? And I'm like, you're right. Either I walk it out or I don't. That's the only choice I have. So I stay within the space I can imagine with my reputation the way I think it should be, or I have an adult conversation, allow myself to grow and to be teachable by the people that have been placed around me, and do far more than I can think or imagine.
Yeah.
So anyway, my 2 cents. And all this stuff grieves my spirit. So I pray a lot. I exercise my voice at a level that I think it's able to have an effect. And love as many people as I can.
Yeah. I think the thing that kind of keeps coming to my mind with all that too, though, it's like, we don't live in a society, in a place in which there is that, like, that equitable kind of space to be able to just like bring ourselves without all this other stuff that's going on. So it's like, how do we, I kind of think of that, like, for me, myself, in order for me to have become a more open and evolved, if you will, person, you know, I had to really reconcile with my past, and I had to reconcile with things that had happened to me that created things within me that I allowed to, like, whatever, like I really had to like look at those things and continue to really be able to show up in a way like I can with you. And I think a lot of folks, we're not all in that position and we're not all in that place. So it's like, how do we move that? And I think as a country, as a people, we've done a lot of harm. And somehow we have to find a way to move through that. And I think a big part for me was being able to recognize it, to call it out, to bring it out of the dark, to bring it to where it's not, I think we're only as sick as we're only as sick as our secrets. So we can pretend that something's not there. We can pretend that there's but that doesn't mean that it's not there. So I think there's an element, and I think that's what's happening right now, is there's an illumination of things that have been there all along. There were things in the dark that are now coming to light for more people. And I think that's just part of the process of us growing. And the truth is difficult, and the truth is hard to see and hard to hold, but it's what we need in order to free not only ourselves, but everyone. Because I think that's what we all want. And we all want everyone to be able to have a good life. And, I think we all agree with that.
Yeah. Yeah. The Bible says the truth will set you free. So
right.
I agree with what you're saying, but here's the thing. You can't move a community sometimes all at once. It starts one heart at a time.
Yeah.
We all have to be willing to do the tough things, to make the small and large sacrifices, to run the risk with their reputation, whatever that might look like, so that we can be moved as a whole. And if we can each be willing to move, it's like I said before, when a change happens in me, it requires a change in the people around me. When you came to me and when we decided to reconcile, both of our responses affected one another.
Right.
And it continued to affect, and it continued and to grow because we nurtured it. It's the same kind of thing. And you're right. We need to have it happen as a nation. But I think it needs to stop. The fighting needs to stop. The fighting needs to stop. We need to step back and say, okay, what does this really need to look like so we can move forward? What does loving our neighbor really look like for us?
Yeah. There needs to
start with each one of us.
Yeah. I mean, I think there needs to be like a really honest assessment and inventory of like the state of where things are at. And you have to have as many diverse people a part of that process as well, because otherwise you're gonna like miss some things. So I think even for us, what's that?
Who really is qualified to do that?
I don't think there's any like one person, but I do think at some point it has to, like, I guess at some point, like we focus on ourselves, but I think how do we know when to stop going? Like, I feel like sometimes people don't go deep enough in really seeing a deeper truth that would then have a more like larger ripple effect, or not even larger, just deeper, whatever. I think sometimes people just stop like with a comfortable truth rather than really like digging deeper. And I think oftentimes I can't see the truth on my own. It's revealed to me, and oftentimes it's revealed to me with other people, like in situations with people. And so yeah,
and that's why it's important to be open for change and not being looking for an opportunity to be offended, because that's how it works. That's exactly how the Bible says it works, and that's how it works. I'm testament to that. That's how it works. So the fact that you and I have been able to come together, and if I get too spiritual for some of you guys, I'm sorry.
This is a spiritual podcast. It's totally okay.
I feel like we were held hostage for 20 years. We had 20 years of opportunity to learn from one another, to grow from one another, to experience the creativity and the joy and the life of one another for 20 years. And we allowed that to happen for all those reasons we've already talked about.
Right.
So when we made that decision, we both had to become vulnerable. And when you're vulnerable, you could get hurt. And nobody likes to get hurt. But if you never become vulnerable, you can never grow. And then here's the thing after that. Once we started having a conversation, we needed to hear one another. And I needed to hear you just say, you hurt me, and I don't like that. I needed to hear you say that. And you needed to hear me say, I'm sorry. I didn't realize I hurt you, or whatever that looked like. But then at the end of it, we needed to be open that one another had something to say that could add value to our life.
Yeah.
And you add value to my life every day. I pray that I add value to you also. But if we're not able to have those conversations, people are put around us all the time for the purpose of adding value. Mm-hmm. Here's the challenge. Not everyone knows their purpose is to add value.
Yeah.
And we're sometimes willing to receive that stuff that's not valuable from them and allow it to steal from us. So if we can approach every relationship with the idea that we want to add value and we will not be offended because they may not be ready to receive, that's where the growth happens. That's where the growth. I can't tell you how many people God has put in my life that I didn't like at first.
Right.
But now I'm grateful to God for those people and for those experiences, because without them, I would not be able to experience the life I have today. I would not have any wisdom to share to anybody.
Yeah. No, I feel you. I feel you. We are at over an hour now, so we should probably. I know. I'm like, now I'm going to have to edit, but I don't want to edit. But yeah, so just a little bit, just shave a couple minutes off. It's okay. Just on the Instagram. It'll just be on the Instagram that it'll be cut short. Everywhere else, it'll show up full and unedited. So yeah, thanks so much. I'm excited for us to continue this next season. Who knows what's going to happen and what we're going to talk about next. But I'm excited to continue the conversations. And I want to encourage folks that are listening or watching to just let you know that we get together every Monday now. We stream live at 10:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Or you can listen to us on our podcast, or check out some stuff on Instagram the not long after our live stream. There we go. Also do us a favor and do us a favor, or we want to encourage folks to share this. I know you're laughing at me. You're laughing at me for folks who can't hear. What's that?
I'm with you because you're laughing.
Oh, I guess I'm laughing too, huh? So please do share if you like what you hear. Share it with other folks on your social media or direct messages. And then also, as always, we love hearing from you all. And would love to talk about what you would like to have us talk about. And we'd love to hear what you think about some of this stuff. So have a great week. And then Tina, do you want to take us out? Because I just said a lot.
I just want to say blessings to everybody. And I want all of you to know that we care about what's happening to you. God bless. See you next week.
Yes, we'll see you next week, and play that outro. Splintered Grace podcast is brought to you by a queer chaplain. Follow us on all of our social medias, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook at a queer chaplain. Listen to us wherever you listen to podcasts. Subscribe, comment, like, and share. Feel free to tip us at Venmo, Bonnie Violet, and support monthly on Patreon. The song is original by Steven Sandnoff, The Chasm Between Us. Rest in peace, Steven.